Do you really love fishing as much as the next guy? I'm throwing this out there. I was one of those guys who loved, it wasn't so much the fishing part of it. It was like the whole, like everything about it. And I've realized that some guys really, really, really like fishing. Like they like it. Like they like to go do it, and they care about certain things. And what's funny is those guys will probably never relate to the guys who like love fishing. Now you can't tell them that. They're gonna get mad. I mean, most people get very angry about that comment. But yeah, you can tell the difference. You can tell I can tell it in kids. I can tell it in all kinds of things. I can tell when someone loves something so much that nothing else gets in their way. Like they're obsessed with it. And I didn't realize it, but I was obsessed with fishing. Still to this day. Like still at my age, the things I do and think about fishing goes far beyond what I think most people think about. Now hear me out. My video yesterday. I did a video yesterday with my kid, and we went live bait fishing, and I couldn't wait to go do it. I knew I was gonna have a blast. I was hoping it was gonna work out the way it did. I was hoping maybe we'd catch some giants. We didn't catch anything like massive. I didn't really like go for giants all day long. I mean, I'm with my kid. We were having a blast. What did it really matter? You know, it was fun catching perch, bluegill, big shiners, all that stuff. Now I bring all that up for a reason. Now there's going to be people going, yeah, man, that's not real fishing. That's you're using live bait or whatever or something. Who knows? Who knows what people freak out about? I can tell those people like the idea of fishing. They might even love the idea. They probably love the idea of fishing, but they truly don't love fishing. You see, to me, fishing is everything. Fishing is going out there with my hands and trying to catch a fish. I mean, to this day, will go catch minnows with nets, with little kitty nets. I will throw cast nets. I will catch catfish. I will do all kinds of fishing. I can't help but like think about fishing all the time. Even when we did that Bassmaster Opens, Pro Pick'em or whatever it is, if you see in that video with Andrew and them while they're discussing, I just happen to be on the water and I'm just staring in the water the whole time. I was watching bluegill and little bass swim around. It catches my attention. It caught my attention more than what we were doing on the Pros Pick'em. So I can't help it. Everything in the fishing world like grabs my attention. And a lot of the guys are out there like purist or whatever, like, oh, you're gonna throw a bait out there. You see a lot of, I hate to say this, but like fly fishermen and different guys, and they're out there for a different experience. No, man, I just love it all. I just love it all. And there's a big difference between that. Like I said, I might catch some hate for that. But there's another aspect to it too. It's because I'm always observing stuff, and I always want to learn things. And I'm always learning things out on the water. When I did this live bait years ago, we used to do it when kind of like in the April, May time when they'd have bluegill beds. And these giants were getting on these bluegill beds. I learned so much from taking live bluegill and fishing for those bass. It blew me away. We didn't have videos back then, but it blew me away, and I will still go do it again to this day if I get a chance. It was so much fun watching bass and then how they react to bluegill. And it started teaching me things about when they get dialed in on certain things and why, like you could throw other baits out there. Like you could throw a minnow out there on a bass that's after bluegill, could care less. Like it's only after bluegill. And when they get targeted in on a bluegill, everything around them goes away. They don't care about your boat, you, anything. And so I learned that, right? It happens out there on shad. It happens out there, whether it be crawfish, it happens a lot. They get dialed into certain things. And I never really understood it until I got to see it. So yesterday I was a little concerned about that. They were out there eating shad and stuff, but I was gonna go see if they'd eat these bluegill. And I caught these big shiners. I guess they're golden shiners. Man, that was pretty awesome. I didn't even know they were in that lake like that big. And the fact that I caught 4 or 5 of them just in that little area lets me know there's probably tons of them in there. here's what I'll say about doing that live bait. And this is one of the biggest, I'd say a tip, the biggest tip I'd ever found out from live bait fishing is, I used to do it too when I lived at, when me and my wife first got married. So we lived at this place. It was, we met these people from church. They had a little starter home that they built while they were building their home. They lived on like 50 acres and they had this pond, and I kind of managed their pond. And if I had videos back then, it would be phenomenal because it was every day. I was out there at that pond every day, feeding the bluegill, feeding the bass. Like the bass were like my pets. It was really cool. And I used to catch live bluegill right there, and I would literally feed those bluegill to the bass. Like, so I'd catch them, and then I'd just off the dock feed these bass. And what it taught me was what the bass really wanted from that bluegill. Now, they wouldn't just eat a bluegill if you just threw it out there. Like, it had to be alive, and it had to swim a certain way. And when it stopped swimming a certain way, they didn't like it. And that happened yesterday. While we were out there, if you know, I didn't show it, but I was going through bluegill a lot. Because if one attacked it and kind of stunned it or did whatever and didn't eat it or we missed it, I could throw that bluegill and watch it on live scope. And if it was down there and I could tell it wasn't moving on live scope very well, like if it wasn't running from the bass didn't eat it. Now, if it ran from the bass, boy, I mean, those bass would freaking get it. Now, two things happen. I'd much rather it go down and stay down in the water column. They almost always ate it when it was like that. The ones that would chase it to the top, they would bust on it and go after it. But if that bluegill ever just kind of decided not to stop swimming like it should, they would lose interest in it. Now, granted, it is like dead in the middle of dog days of summer. So there's a little of that, man, you could tell that those fish, if they started schooling, they were active, but as soon as they stopped schooling, they're like just so inactive. They're just down there swimming, and they're not really chasing anything. You can watch them for hours on live scope, and they're not really chasing anything. They're just swimming above the thermocline. And so, yeah, you would drop that bluegill down there, and if the bluegill didn't swim, sometimes I'd have to weight the bluegill, even put more of those little weights on there to get it down there. But if it didn't swim right, they wouldn't eat it. And I just find that interesting. I find it interesting, and I think it's knowledgeable. I think all these things that we can pick up on helps you in fishing. Now, like you said, there might be some guy out there going, oh, that's cheating, it's live bait. See, he's missing the point. He's so focused on the idea of fishing and making it this reading. He's probably read some book somewhere, right? Some poems about fishing. And he thinks that's like, he watched a movie, right? Like A River Runs Through It. River Runs Through It. I love that movie, right? But it's still a movie. It's not real, right? And like I said, I've watched that movie tons of times. I love it. And it makes fly fishing out to be this whole one thing. And I get it, the purism of it all. I get what I was doing out there wasn't like the pure fishing, right? Out there with the rod and getting it all, whatever, man. I just like to learn stuff about fishing. That's what I just want to learn stuff. I'm so curious as to, I can learn everything there is to know about fishing and want to learn more. And I learned a lot out there yesterday. I mean, I've already kind of learned it, but I always pick up on little things here and there. I'm gonna throw another thing out there. The people are going to flip out over this comment. I don't think, if you don't like sight fishing, I don't think you really love fishing. Now you're going to, like I said, you're going to go into the, like, oh, you're disrupting the bed and all this stuff. Man, I can look in the water for hours at fish. That's why I love sight fishing, because I get to watch what's going on. I get to watch for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, bass in their natural habitat react to things. I get to watch them swim around. I get to see what happens when a gar swims by, a turtle swims by, a bluegill swims by. I get to see what happens when birds fly over. I get to see what happens when my bait comes. I get to see it all because I think it's all pretty cool. So I would highly suggest that take a broader stance in fishing and a broader outlook in fishing. And try to get all of it. Encompass it all. There's some guys that are like, oh, that's all I do is fish for bass. Okay. I fish for everything. I will throw it white bass, stripers, hybrids, catfish, crappie. If there's gar, I've caught gar before, carp. I'm going for it all. I like, I'm not saying I'm going to go do it every day. If there's something to go catch, I'm probably going to go try to catch it at one point in time or the other. Because I want to know. I want to know I don't even know how to ever go catch a gar. I used to see them swimming around Livingston all the time until I finally figured out how to catch one. Like legit trying to. Now I've caught gar just accidental, but actually try to catch one. Like get a nylon rope and do some of that stuff. Gets all entangled in their teeth. How many else people know about that? I wanted to learn that stuff. And I think all these different ways of fishing, like I said, it brings me back and makes me more knowledgeable when I actually go out there and try to fish like I do 99% of the time with a rod and a reel and a bait. But I learned things about those fish. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Like I said, that tip of knowing how a bait reacts and how the fish reacts to it and why they won't bite it because of certain movements and how they rarely feed down and how they push things up. It all helps. There's so much into all that. It helps you when you're fishing normally with regular baits, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our bait to react, right? Like an actual bait fish in the water and trigger that bite. Because you can trigger them. Like you can also do the wrong thing and make them not want to bite. And I want to make sure I know what those things are to avoid those things. So like I said, I think videos like yesterday or days in the water like yesterday are always helpful. Yes, they're fun. Got to hang out with my son. He said, man, he got home. He was dead. He fell asleep on the way home. He's like, man, he goes, I had so much fun. He said that was one of the best trips he's ever been on. I mean, you got to catch bluegill. You got to go catch fish. Got to jump in the water, swim like half a mile on the way back to the boat. He was like, this is the best day ever. And I enjoyed it too because I got to see like a different side of fishing sometimes that we kind of miss. So thought I'd share that with y'all. If you get a chance to go do something different, or if you have a thought to go do something in fishing that's different, that's not like the norm, like everyone else is going, go do it. I promise you, whatever you learn that day will help you later on when you're regular fishing, right? All right. Hope y'all enjoyed that. See y'all. Take that advice. I promise you, it'll be well worth it. See you guys.